Hey, this is Andy with Rocket City Pinball. Today I'm going to show you the Continental building mod for John Wick Pinball. In the game, very prominently featured is the Continental Hotel here in the back, but it's not really all that pretty. It's a piece of metal with a sticker, big sticker put over it, and a couple of plastic pieces to give it some accents. So it definitely needs to be improved slightly. So I have here a nice 3D version. You can see much more detailed. I print this in a filament that is a kind of a matte gray like concrete with has some black flake in it, and I've also added some weathering aging effects to it. Pretty easy to install, and I'm going to walk you through that right now. All you're going to need to do this work is Phillips head screwdriver, some side cutters, a magnetic dish for your hardware is always recommended, a couple of zip ties that I'll include that are optional, but you may want to use them. Playfield jacks if you have them. If you don't have them, you can use a 24-inch 2x4, or you may not even need them, depending on just how you like to access the machine. Now, the first thing we need to do to make our lives a little bit easier is we need to disconnect a plug underneath the playfield. So make sure your game is off and take your balls out of the game. If you would like, you can acquire one of these cool little pinball corrals from Space Coast Pinball, so you have a place to put them where you won't lose them or fish them out of a cup holder. So after you take the balls out of the game, lift it up into the service position, and I'll show you where that connector is. Alright, once you have your playfield up, you're going to be looking for a rectangular slot that's located below the Continental, which is this one right here. So coming out of that slot, you're going to have a large plug, looks like a 4-pin type plug, and you're also going to have a skinnier covered bundle here that's probably going to be wrapped around some of these other wires and ends in this little 3-pin connector right here. So this is the one you want to disconnect. To disconnect it, you just push on this tab right here and pull them apart. Now with this connector disconnected, you can just kind of unwind that wire bundle, and just so that you're lined up with the hole. You don't have to push it all the way through the hole because it's a little bit extra challenge to get it back through. But really, we just need the slack here because we're going to pull this up a little bit from the top. Okay, so now you can lower the playfield back down to its lower position, but you're going to want to set it up on the lip of the machine. I'll demonstrate that for you. So this is the position I was referring to. Oh, here's my helper over here. So get it set up where your little rubber pads are on that lip of the machine. And then so you can do all the work we need to do from this position, but I find it's easier if you lift it up. So if you have playfield jacks, you can set the back of the playfield on the playfield jacks here. Also, if you have a 24-inch 2x4, you could also prop up the back of the playfield on this handle. All right, as you can see with my playfield jacks, it lifts this back end of the playfield up very high, so it's nice and easy to get to. Okay, so the next step in this process is there's a couple things we need to remove. First thing we have to remove is this side plastic here because there's it's kind of a tight squeeze in here. We're going to have to get some clearance. So you've got a screw, lock washer, and washer back here. Same here. And then at this location you have a screw, and be careful because there is a spacer underneath that, and that's going to come with it when you take that off. So don't lose that little piece there. You'll notice your games may have silver hardware here. I have black here as part of my John Wick hardware cleanup kit. You can look that up on my site. Cleans up all the hardware in the game to blend in better. Looks really nice. Okay, so we're going to take those 3 out. Don't forget the spacer. And then we're also going to take these 4 screws out of the top of the hotel roof. One other piece of hardware to mention, now that we've taken this plastic off, we've revealed a hex spacer back there, and that needs to come off as well. If you're not able to unthread it with your fingers, it's a 1/4-inch size, so you can use a nut driver or whatever tooling you have to get that off. All right, now that we have access to this side, note there's a washer under that hex spacer that can stay there. So now we have pretty good access, and we've taken the screws out of the roof. So the next step is to lift the roof straight up, and we're going to kind of set it aside. So this is why we've loosened that connector underneath the playfield, because you'll see as we pull this out, there's actually a bunch of structure underneath. You may get a little metal on metal scraping as you pull it out because it's got a metal back. So let's see what you had inside here. It's like a present. Surprise, what's inside? So this is what you got inside here. This lower long tongue that sits there actually covers the top of the captive ball area and keeps that ball from jumping around. And the rest of it houses the lights that flash inside the hotel. So now that we have enough slack on that wire there, we're able to lift this out and just kind of lay it to the side over here. It's just needs to get out of the way. But that's all you got to do with that. Okay, so the next thing you're going to see, now that we can get inside here, you're going to see that these plastics here, they have these notches that stick through these cut holes on the inside. And you're going to find that the two in the back, at the holes in the back there, have a zip tie in them. And these will have a zip tie on this side as well. Now, the one down in the bottom, see if I can focus down there, that one down there will also have a zip tie on both sides. I've already cut it out because I was working on this project here, and I just didn't reinstall it because I was just doing this for the demo. So you'll have a zip tie down there as well. So you need to reach in with your side cutters, snip those zip ties, and remove them. Now with those zip ties cut off, now you'll see that you can actually grab the edge of this plastic here and just pull it out of the slots that it sits in. And do the same on both sides. And you'll see that whole plastic piece just comes right out, just like that. Okay, so you actually have 3 identical pieces like this. One in my hand, 2, 3, all 3 of them are the same. They all have the same dash number on them. So take all 3 of those out. Now, something else I'll mention while we're in here is you'll notice on the inside here that you have nice laser cut holes where all the windows are, and then the sticker on the outside kind of lays over those windows. So that is why this row of windows in this column right here doesn't light up, because they didn't cut out the holes there. So only the back 4 batches and then the 2 columns in the front will actually light up. But that was important for the design of my version because I needed to leave the openings for the windows so that the windows would still light up from through the sticker. Okay, now to install my piece, you'll notice I have similar tabs built into the structure here, which were just in the same position as the pieces of plastic that we just took out. So your next step, if I can focus here, here we go. You'll notice I've got a cutout in the front here that sits over the top of the awning in the front of the Continental. So you're going to bring the piece in. You can give it a little bit, it's pretty strong, but you can give it a little bit of an opening squeeze on it to get it to surround the structure here. And you're going to slide it down so that the name of the hotel and that slot slides right over the awning. And then you're just going to push it back into place, and you'll see this side just popped right in to where the little tabs go. See how I do on this side? Oh, there we go. And that side just popped right in. So there you go. So that's how it's designed to fit. It just sits right on top of the existing metal with the sticker covering it, and then my mod sits on the outside of that, and the slots go right in there. So now it really doesn't need it, but just to help keep it snug, you can use the 2 provided zip ties to go zip tie through those 2 tab holes, just like the original plastics were, and that'll just kind of help keep it snug. You don't really need to do the ones down at the bottom, because since this is a much larger overall piece, you know, this whole big thing, rather than just a skinny little piece of plastic that you had that we took out, you really don't need the ones at the bottom. It'll stay in place. But if you really want to reach down there and try to put a zip tie in there, I did put a hole in the tab, so you can do that if you want. But so next step, zip tie there, zip tie there. Now, as you can see with the zip ties in place, it helps keep the now the new outside of the building nice and snug up against the walls. All right, so our next step, I mean, that's pretty much it for the installation itself. So now we're just putting stuff back together. So now as you bring your roof and your internal structure back and you want to slide it into place, you'll see it's got these metal tabs on the outside here, one there and one on that side. Those are going to go inside the metal structure right here. Oop, like that, as you slide it down. Now, when you slide it down, you may want to use your free hand. You can do that with one hand, and then with your free hand, you can actually reach around the back of the game and underneath and find that connector and help pull that wire down as you bring it in, because you want to make sure that that wire stays out of the way of that stand-up target there, because that's what the captive ball hits as it rolls back, and you also want to keep it from tangling up in that track there. So pull down on that wire, that harness that we disconnected, pull down on that as you lower this piece down into the building. One more point to mention, it's hard to show it because it's hard to focus on it, but the side tabs that I just showed you, see how they're kind of having a little L shape to them. And the reason they have an L shape is if you look down inside the building, you'll see a little tab sticking out down there. That L shape is supposed to rest right on top of that tab sticking out down there. I'm sorry I can't get the camera to focus on it. But as you slide this down, you should feel it kind of rest right on top of those. All right, then once you've got it down in there, then you're going to bring in your 4 screws that you removed, and you're going to put those 4 screws back in place on your roof. With those 4 screws back in place, now we got to put this plastic back in place here. So don't forget, you should have a hex spacer that goes there first. And then you set the plastic on top, and you'll have a screw, lock washer, and a washer here. Screw, lock washer, and washer here. And then your spacer underneath the plastic, and then the single screw that goes through right there. All right, there we go. Plastic back in place. So next step is to come down off your pinball jacks or your playfield jacks if you used them, and then lift your playfield back to the service position. Once your playfield's back up, you got your 3-pin connector here, so you may just want to take up some of the slack by wrapping it back around some of these bundles like you had before, and then plug it back into that connector right there. So once you've reconnected that connector, you can lower the playfield and put it back into the game. Don't forget to put the balls back in. And then you can power it on and take a look at how nice the new 3D Continental building looks. Now the roof is still a flat plastic, and I was thinking about designing a new piece to cover or replace that as well. So check my site, see if I ever got around to it. But if not, while I was developing this mod, another mod got announced. This is from Pinmod Studio, and he made a really cool rooftop piece. The fireplace flickers, and there's lights underneath the pond there, so it's really nice looking. But the important reason I wanted to show this to you was this plastic here is the rooftop plastic, and then these two are the ones that you removed during the process of installing my mod. So the point is that you don't need to worry. My mod fits with this mod with no problem, since mine butts up against underneath the rooftop plastic. And I've actually reached out to Pinmod Studio, and we decided to make sure that we were using the same filament for the outer band here as I'm using on my building, so that they match, because you don't want a mismatch there. So there you go. Continental building mod from Rocket City Pinball. I have lots of other mods for John Wick as well if you're interested. Here's a quick run through. I've got the Osaka ramp cover in various colors. Got the dance club exit corrector here to prevent the ball from going straight down the middle. The Continental, of course. The Rusko Roma headquarters. The coin stack mod, very popular. The Daisy and cereal bowl. The hardware cleanup kit that you see but can't really see because the hardware blends in nicely. And as always, Rocket City Pinball is best known for my 3D start buttons. So reach out if you have any questions. RocketCityPinball.com. Thanks for watching.